Thank you for joining us on our journey here to preserve the history of mixed martial arts. When I wanted to take on this project, I needed help. I brought in one of my favorite matchmakers, Miguel Iterate, and the MMA Detective, Mike Davis. So to do this, we've been able to preserve history. Welcome and enjoy.
Welcome back to the Lights Out Podcast. Miguel Iterate is joining me by my side. My name is Mike Davis. Along with us, Joey Gilbert. We are still in Abu Dhabi, April 11th, 2001, on the compound. Joey, you made a big splash in the 2000 showing, taking third place, and they put you up against the #1 seed in Peshawar for this tournament. When did you find out your seeding?
You find out after weigh-ins. That's what I remember finding out, is after weigh-ins.
Were you surprised at that? Any forethought in regards to taking on one of the best guys in the tournament?
No, not at all. I mean, I expected it, but right away, I had two tough guys right in a row, man. It was a tough side of the bracket. I mean, the whole bracket was tough, but that little area was probably as tough as any area in that bracket, that 8-man little area.
So Peshawar was a multiple-time world champion, black belt under Osvaldo, a Gracie Baja guy. He's one of 2 people ever to skip from purple belt to black belt. And that same year that this match took place, he won the Worlds as a black belt. So Joey, this was kind of a hotly contested fight.
Yeah, just really fast to add a little bit to it. I think Paixão's world championships were a weight class down. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so he was a little bit small. That's not to take away from him, because as Mike said, he was a guy with a daunting reputation. And in Brazil, where there's that reputation that everybody's from the barrio or from the favelas or whatever like that, Fredson legitimately is from the lower classes of that society. He's poor, and that gives him a different type of hunger that he reminds me a lot of is Jacare. That same kind of seriousness, like not a guy you catch like ha belly laughing or anything like that. He's had a very serious life. So yeah, that's a tough first match. That's a tough first match.
Joey, what do you remember about that?
The first match?
Yeah, Peshawar.
I knew a little bit about him, I think, at the time, and I know the dude. Like, you just hear people talking. Yeah, I know the guy's gonna be strong and very strong, But just like it was just the first match, man. And you go to Abu Dhabi, you're gonna wrestle somebody tough. It doesn't matter in that bracket. So that's the mindset you're just going in. Hey, man. But and then it's hard. You don't know much about these guys, and I think you can't be too aggressive in the beginning, because you kind of almost sound feeling them out, And you're like videotaping them there, you go watch videotape on guys. We didn't have that much, so at the time, man, you kind of observe what's going on, in the first minute or so, and see what he's giving you, I mean, he's probably doing the same with me, But I think he felt like I was just going to come out and shoot on him. But again, he's a pretty aggressive. He is pretty strong wrestler, I feel. That's how he wrestles in jiu-jitsu. I mean, fights in his jiu-jitsu matches.
You could see him getting angry during the bout, though, during the course of the bout. He kept getting angrier and angrier. Did you sense that?
Yeah, man. He wanted to, I didn't really, it drives me too crazy in wrestling. These guys always want to grab you. It's like a Russian thing. They grab your fingers and they try to bend your fingers. He was doing a lot of that dirty stuff in the beginning. And I was kind of like, all right, man, this is what he wants to be. And just to be a dirty wrestler, just being dirty out there.
Well, he also got warned at one point in regards to his activities with your fingers.
Yeah. Right, because they tell you that's one of the rules. Don't do that. He just kept going over and over. And you go in a match, you don't expect a guy to do that, because it's not part of the rules. But, it's not the first time it ever happened to me. It happened to me plenty of times, my key was trying to get, I go to a call back leg single. I was just trying to work that and stay out of his guard and get to side mount position. That was my first part of my strategy always. I should know. I know more hindsight. Like if my brother was yelling probably the right things in the match, I should have battled with him more. He was. I should have hand fought, got heavy on his head more. I had that opportunity in the match. I didn't take advantage of it till after I'd seen the match, but I should have made it a little bit more physical on that guy.
Well, you did enough to win. Like you're sitting here talking about, post-fight regret when your hand was raised, and it's one of the bigger upsets in ADCC. In fact, it also cemented you. If you go to BJJ Heroes, they have the top 5 wrestlers ever to compete in ADCC. You took the number 5 spot.
Yeah, I seen that. That's cool, man. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate those guys doing that.
Yeah.
You're a good company, man.
Miguel, did Hoyler or anyone else come over and talk to you in regards to Joey when he beats Paixão?
Yeah, he never. Not when he beat Paixão. I didn't have any, but I know Hoyler Gracie was very aware of Joe, and they never met up in Abu Dhabi. And that's one of those things that it would have been interesting because what Joey represented too at that point is, Hoyler never faced a wrestler like that. I mean, he wasn't a guy that, they brought in, wrestlers from Kazakhstan like they do nowadays and stuff like that. Like guys preparing now, amateurs may have wrestlers of high level, but jiu-jitsu guys, it was completely foreign to them. So Hoyler was aware, and I was talking to Kid Peligro in a hotel lobby, and he was like, we were talking about Joey when he finished 3rd the year before, and Hoyler stepped into our conversation to ask more about him. So I know he was aware of him heading into 2001. It's a shame he never had.
Yeah, that would have been fantastic. You win that bout. Obviously, Paixão was very frustrated during the bout, like he's smiling at you, gritting your teeth. And, Joey, you're never losing your game face. Like your game face is always the same. It doesn't change. And you see his is getting more and more anxious. It's pretty interesting.
Joey's got his game face on right now. Look at Joey.
Yeah, I don't think Joey's ever smiling. I agree.
But there's a lot of things, man. Like that whole year, I wasn't probably on the mat twice wrestling. I had nowhere to train. Even when I fought BJ Penn, I went to work and I went to YMCA around the treadmill. I had nowhere to train at the time. So I was kind of worried about my conditioning. I was just running around the block. That's how I was training. We had nowhere to train no more. Our gym got shut down, and so I probably could have, if I would have went there with more confidence and polish a little bit, I would have pushed the pace more. I think it hurt me in my second match in Abu Dhabi. Because I was worried about my conditioning. I had no mat time, 0 mat time going into that tournament.
Wow. Well, your next fight, Habson Mora Fonseca. Habson,
I knew who he was.
Yeah, he's a tough dude. But he was also kind of playing it up to the judges like, he's not engaging. Like his theatrics started almost immediately within the first 2 minutes of your bout.
I really thought I was winning on the points with the way the points went, but I guess I wasn't. But hey, live and learn, and like I said, I didn't have the same way I went in the 2000. I was in shape. I was training a lot. I mean, not as much, but I did, I could have pushed the pace. I think with that mentality I didn't have, but I know that's probably why with those guys in that match, he was doing all that stuff. But he was right, man. Those guys know how to play the game too.
Yeah. Were you surprised at how well he was able to kind of keep you in his guard, not let you pass it?
Yeah, but I seen his matches. I knew the guys. I feel like going in that tournament, he had probably like when this comes to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as good as anybody in that tournament, any weight class. That kid, So I knew I was in the match, man. And like I said, I didn't go into it with 100% confidence in that tournament. I had a lot of things going on in my life at the time. Work. I had my second kid coming, and can't remember when I was out in Abu Dhabi, my second kid was born when I was in Abu Dhabi.
Oh.
So, yeah, my son Ronan.
That's
I
not
went on the
easy.
internet. I had a kid. Somebody posted it so I could see I had a kid that day. he was, you know, and the next day was my birthday. He was born on April 13th, and April 14th was my birthday. And I'm like, but you know, it's all about everything, man. It's about training, man. And training gives you the confidence. And I think if I would have went there and been on the mat every day, I was on the mat once. I wasn't. When I fought BJ Penn, I think I was never on the mat. The first time I got on the mat, I got to Atlantic City, UFC. We had nowhere to train.
You know, with BJ Penn, though, yeah, my issue with that bout, I should say issue. It's not an issue, but the one thing that I think people need to be reminded of is you're not a 155-pound fighter. You're a 45er, and you're up a weight class going against BJ Penn.
Yeah. But, you know, I mean, BJ's the man. And at the time, I knew he was good, but I didn't know he was going to become a legend, you know? So it's cool to fight him, man.
Oh, for sure. You know, Miguel, I run into Joey shortly after his BJ Penn fight. And, you know, I talked to him, and man, dude, it was like watching somebody that was almost embarrassed to talk to you about something that was incredible that they did. And it like hurt me having Joey go, well, you know, I had issues here, I had issues there. And it was like, you're a 145-pound fighter fighting one of the best guys in the world at 155. And you went 5 minutes with a guy that, like, there's a handful of people that couldn't go 20 seconds with. And it was just like, Joey never appreciated, I think, what he accomplished, which probably drove him to, you know, higher heights, to where they're kind of sitting back and thinking, oh, wow, let me enjoy this accomplishment.
Yeah, just him now repeating that in 2001, he didn't really have a gym or anywhere to train. That, imagine that, even that in nowadays, and kind of, it's a blessing, I guess, that the sport has progressed that way. But that would never happen now. You know, somebody would swoop in and probably get him a training camp, and, you know, 8 weeks before, and nutritionists and the whole, you know, people are dealing with the sport at a completely different level, not working 10-hour days, you know, and running around the block. And
that's been my second kid too, you know, that week, you know.
And that's the mental baggage too, you know, dealing with all that. You know, the thing is it's a tribute to the, you know, Michigan Wolverines program and the wrestling and how hard that makes you. Everything, how high a level he competed at without being fully dedicated to it. Imagine if he had been fully dedicated to it. Imagine if we had taken Joey Gilbert and given him BJ Penn's resources. It'd be a whole different world.
Yeah.
You know? So it's interesting. Joey is a phenom for that, in that I don't think you can name too many people that could compete at the level he competed, you know, kind of on the fly, cold.
Yeah, but, you
Joey,
know,
would you agree with that?
what's that?
What are your feelings in
Check
regards
out
to?
here, though. Hold on, Joey, come closer to the camera. Come closer to the camera.
Yeah.
Show us that ear.
Oh yeah.
Look at that. Look at that. It was like, it's the same ear from, look at that. That's a wrestler's ear, guys. If you've never seen
It's from 1990, you know. No, I would, Miguel, yeah, I agree with him when I said, but, you know, I think with me and my brother and like Jay, like all the guys, right, we were just figuring out. We never had a mentor. We ended up being the mentors. And now I think we're better mentors for it, you know. We didn't have nobody helping us out. You know, I mean, Miguel was the first guy to really help us out. And it was like, man, this guy is like, to us, like, man, this guy got me in the UFC, got us in Abu Dhabi. This is crazy. But as a manager part, that was good. But as a coach, we never had a mentor, you know, and I think that kind of hurt us. It was like me and my brother, and we're still, even though we're in our 30s, but we don't know what's going on, you know. Come on, I'm fighting BJ Penn in a cage, and the only time I fought in a cage is up in a couple shows up in Iowa. It was like a dog cage. It was a Royce Elder's show, you know, and you know, these guys knew how to fight on a cage. We never really thought about how to train on a cage, you know. I think, you know, so fighting local, I could get by with my wrestling, but when we moved up, you know, we weren't. Those guys were way ahead of us, you know.
So Miguel, Joey is him and his brother Danny. He and his brother Danny, who he's mentioned several times, they have a gym called Gilbert Grappling.
We never
I'm
had.
one of
We
the
weren't, when I was at Abu Dhabi, I was never a Gilbert grappler until 2005. I was Joe
and
Cortia, and then nobody. I just went.
so there's a certain hardness you see with Joey in regards to our interview. Danny is got that same type of attitude, and the student that they attract more often than not wouldn't fit in other gyms. They're not like your real nice kid, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. They get like a street kid there that kind of demands your respect. And whenever Joey and Danny kind of pull the troops in, those guys just fall right in line. And they're just top line competitors. Every single pro in that gym, with the exception of one or two, CFFC Ariel, one of our guys, or Arius, one of our guys, in CFFC, he signed the entire gym. I mean, that's the type of level of talent Gilbert Grappling's putting out.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, but it's a learning process,
I would say that you could see too, and the wrestlers I think have that, especially when they've been coached correctly. I think Coleman likes to say he's uncoachable, but Coleman I think is a guy that at one point soaked up a lot of information and now kind of, and I think that these guys have been around at that level. Someone like Joey, you can learn a lot because he's been soaking up all that year, and then add to that the experience and stuff like that. And Danny's got, Danny smiles. That's the difference between the two.
Yeah, Danny. Yeah, it's just a rough crew. But the thing is, though, Joey, it's like you guys are taking kids from areas where these kids aren't supposed to do great things. They're not supposed to be on TV. They're not supposed to be role models. You guys are taking them, showing them, just like what Miguel did to you. Just kind of, hey, man, I'm going to look out for you out of the kindness of my heart. Most of those kids at Gilbert Grappling, they're not paying to go there. They might be giving up, some of their prize money and stuff like that. But the love and care that Danny and Joey put into those, put into the guys that they train, you can't fake that. Like, you can't fake it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the kind of guys we are. We, probably wear our emotion on our sleeves, but this is how we were raised, We're never really ever about money. It is about money. I mean, at the end, you hope there's going to be some money so you can still do it, But it's just be part of the sport, man. Like, I love, submission wrestling. I love MMA, and I'm happy in my time it came, because like I didn't really get into it in my 30s, so there's 30 years of my life that this stuff wasn't around, And it's kind of cool to be in the beginning of it, and with you guys, you know how it is, man. Like, but I feel like we're a lost art too, and I'm happy you guys have this podcast because you bring down all these guys. I mean, like, I look at some of these younger guys, like, man, you guys have it easy, man. You guys don't have to fight and scoot and boogie in the middle of nowhere and show up and say you can't not fight in here. You got to go and drive 2 more hours to fight somewhere else on the same day, and like, it's crazy, man. But that humbles us a lot,
Joey, do you think there's a wrestling arrogance when it comes to submission grappling? When people are just like the hardcore wrestlers?
I don't know, man. I don't see too many wrestling, like Division One. A lot of guys go into submission wrestling, man. I see a lot of wrestlers go into it more like guys that had more high school experience, and I think they have an edge, and I think it suits some guys better. I don't think a lot of guys could go into submission wrestling and do well either. I feel it's a whole different art, Like, I don't really care much for freestyle wrestling, but I hated wrestling. I mean, I was done with wrestling, and all of a sudden the UFC I was watching and started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and made me love wrestling again. But I just enjoy the submission part the best. It's a little bit more physical.
Well, you talked about in the earlier conversations, you talked about the impact the Contenders had on you, and that was a watershed moment. And from a wrestling perspective, I think that is what Mike was talking about. It seemed like Monday and Jackson kind of went into like, we got this. Like, they didn't need to even learn. Like, you said you'd been in a triangle and you were like, oh, this stuff is dangerous. So maybe your experience, showed you, but a lot of wrestlers kind of were like, we got this.
Well, I think I'm lucky because my dad was a judo player a little bit. He used to live in Mexico City, and he, got into judo, and when we first got into wrestling, he would show us chokes and all this like submission stuff. I'm like, man, damn, we can't do this in wrestling, but we understood it. You know, we understood the positions already, and we know what we're getting into. I mean, hey man, that guy is gonna grab your leg or twist. It hurts. It's not like there's no wrestling move like that. They're gonna break it, but there was no breaking, and there was no timeouts. I mean, we understood what the submissions were all about and get into it. And a lot of these wrestlers don't understand it because you can't do it in the wrestling room. They don't even know the mechanics of it or how slick these guys are. Because, man, who's the Contenders was going against, was it Shamrock? Rolled knee bar, right? From an underhook. And you think that never happens in wrestling practice.
Yeah.
But we
Mark Schultz, when we interviewed Mark, he said, if you really think about it, get the wrestling rule book. Go look at illegal moves. There's even pictures in there. That's called jujitsu. It's just,
right.
Yeah, and Wes Sims has got the famous quote of, well, Hammerhouse has never been submitted by jujitsu, but we have lost to illegal wrestling moves. It's just That's interesting. Cool. It's almost like jujitsu is just like the addition to wrestling, and jujitsu didn't have the wrestling takedowns or hips, but they've got the finish.
Yeah. I mean, what you mean, folk style wrestling is from catch wrestling, so but they started to take a lot of the submissions out. You look at the old 1936, I got these old wrestling books. There's tons of submission holds in there, a lot of key locks and stuff. I wish it would go back to that way, man, a little bit more physical.
Absolutely. Miguel, that wraps up 2001 ADCC, the story of Joey Gilbert, historic run, obviously recognized by many, hasn't been documented up until this time. I'm really glad that we're able to get this interview in. Joey, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks for joining us, man. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks.
Keep in touch. We probably got to do a deep dive here, Mike.
Absolutely. We'll start with his 161 high school wrestling career. That's where the deep dive will begin.
All right.
Thanks a bunch, man. Yeah, we'll have it back on for a full length, and this will be the Abu Dhabi asterisk. So thank you very much, brother. Good to see you.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.